Sometimes we also see a scenario where children are chemically addicted, and yet the parents are still expecting the child to be an owner in the company and be active in the company. There's a lot of alcoholism out there, and there's cases where there's drug use, and yet parents will say, you know what, I love my kid, I want to keep them on the payroll, maybe someday they'll come out of it, and they make excuses to give them a six-figure income. And again, once the founder's gone, the management people aren't going to work for somebody like that, and the children that are really working hard are going to have a major problem with those that are chemically addicted. You know, and the last thing I would say about this is sometimes you have kids that just feel entitled. They've been put on the payroll without going and working for somebody else. They've had a really nice deal with mom and dad giving them a six-figure income, and again, they're easily replaced. And with that entitlement, objectivity goes out the door. Now, all of this stuff is a soft issue. It's the elephant in the room. All the management people know this is going on. Maybe the managing child of the business knows it's going on. And if there's a catastrophe, if mom and dad die, if they get old and get dementia, if they end up allowing all this to occur while they go in to do their legal documents and their estate plan and their succession plan, I guarantee you there's going to be a big mess down the road, and it's a mess that could be avoided. Okay, so what does mom and dad need to do? The first thing is assessing the situation, looking at what maybe they've done right and wrong, getting some feedback as to whether they actually have blinders on as they're looking toward their children, trying to save them and help them survive by putting them on the payroll, and then looking at the management and saying, all right, if my children are capable and they should be able to run the business, but will the management team work for the children? They worked for the founder. Will they work for the children? Getting a really good assessment of how that plays out is real important. The next is to talk about how do we take this business and the estate, and how do we move the business into the hands of the children that are actively managing and running the company? And then how do we treat the other children from the standpoint of fairness? Like I've talked about before, the non-active children, if they see a strong financial statement in the business, many times they want to force the sale of the company so they can get their money. So parents can design their estate plans to move other assets over to the children that aren't active. If there aren't enough to equal the situation, you can look at life insurance to balance the situation out. But planning ahead for how you're going to handle that is really important before you start doing legal documents and creating trusts and developing the succession in the estate plan. I think it's really critical for mom and dad to study the children and really ask the question, what are their skills? What are they passionate about? Do they really want to run this company when we're gone? If they had the choice and didn't feel like they had the obligation, would they do something different with their lives? Really studying that is important because you want your kids to win and you want them to have a sense of accomplishment by the time they retire. And you want them to have a sense of accomplishment when they get older and they retire.